welcome. This is the Collaborating with Education Partners on Virtual Field Trips and Projects breakout session. I'm Vince Stewart, and I am the moderator for this breakout session. During this session, you will be encouraged to ask questions and share comments in the chat. Everyone has access to the chat today, and I'll be moderating the chat to help our presenters field your questions. You will see the link in this session's presentation at the top of the chat. Feel free to follow along. As far as sharing your video or audio, I have some special instructions. Our virtual platform allows for a limited number of people to share their video or audio at one time. There's a blue button on your screen. You can click if you want to be added to the queue to ask a clarifying question or share your screen. Lastly, you will automatically start in the gallery view, and you control the display. If you want one of the tiles to be larger, just simply double click on it and that'll expand it. And now I'm excited to introduce our presenters for today. We have Craig Strang and Emily Weiss from the Lawrence Hall of Science.
Great, thanks so much, Vince. Pleasure to be here. Welcome, everyone. All that Emily and I can see is that there are 41 of you out there right now. We can't see your smiling faces. We don't know who you are or where you work. So if you chat, it would be great if you could just tell us, are you a teacher, are you an administrator, where do you work, something like that. And I want to start today by letting you know that I'm speaking to you from my home in Berkeley, California, which is the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo Ohlone people. If you happen to know the name of the people on whose land you're participating from today, go ahead and put that in the chat to acknowledge the people whose land we're on. So we're going to be talking about collaborations for the next half an hour. Collaborations between informal science, environmental ed, and outdoor science education organizations with K-12 schools and school districts. And we know that these kind of collaborations have always been important, that science and environmental literacy are a team sport. And in the current context, since the pandemic has hit, we think that these partnerships are more important than ever. I'm going to set a little bit of the context for why I think that's true, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Emily, who's going to share some of the types of collaborations that we could engage in with schools. Next slide. Since the pandemic has hit, there's been a devastating effect on organizations that provide outdoor science and environmental education services. We did a survey in April, and we had 1,000 organizations respond, and they told us that if they remain closed through December 31st, that only 37% of all of these organizations in the country are likely to ever reopen. So about 2/3 of the field of outdoor science and environmental ed programs are at risk of closing down and never coming back. Next slide. Similarly, because of those closures, among the 1,000 organizations that responded, there are 30,000 employees, outdoor and environmental educators around the country who've been laid off or furloughed. That's just in the 1,000 organizations that replied to our survey. So we know that there's a trained up, enthusiastic, eager, talented, skilled workforce that's available to support school systems right now. Next slide. At the same time, our school systems are facing a huge, daunting challenge, looking at remote learning over the next period of months as we reopen schools. This is from a study that was done by EdWeek, and I know it's very small, but what you can see is that in low-income schools, a much higher, vastly higher percentage of students were not able to ever participate in remote learning. And in those same high poverty schools, if students did participate, they had much less likelihood of being engaged by live instruction. So we know that remote instruction has been failing our students of color and low-income students, and that the best solution, when it's safe, not when it's not safe, but when it's safe to bring kids back, we think that bringing kids back to school for in-person learning from classroom teachers and from informal science educators will be our best solution. Next slide. There's a group of people, about 1,000 of us around the country, who've been working over the last couple of months on a grassroots collective impact initiative called the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative. It's being co-led by Green Schoolyards America, and the website is hosted by Green Schoolyards. Lawrence Hall of Science is involved in the leadership, as well as San Mateo County Office of Ed and 10 Strands. And this is a group that's come together to try and figure out how to organize partnerships between these environmental education organizations that are largely shutting down and laying off their employees and the school system around the country, but in California in particular, that could utilize and redeploy those same laid off educators to work with kids outdoors in small groups and relieve some of the burden on classroom teachers who we know are going to be both teaching in person, and if the status quo goes forward, when we bring kids back in staggered schedules, teachers will be responsible for teaching in person and tending to half their students who are at home learning online. And we think that some of these outdoor educators could be redeployed onto school sites and working with kids outdoors in in-person learning, relieving teachers of the burden of having to provide them with remote learning. Okay, on to, this is some of the plans that have been made by that outdoor learning initiative. We've come up with at least 4 models. There are many more that describe different types of partnerships that school systems and environmental and outdoor science education organizations and informal science education organizations can engage in together. And I'm not going to go through these different partnerships. You can kind of scan them right now, but I encourage you to go to the link at greenschoolyardsamerica.org and take a closer look at all of the guidance documents that are being put together by 11 different working groups to try and facilitate these partnerships that could be extraordinarily mutually beneficial. Okay, Emily?
A lot of screens to toggle, unmute myself. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Weiss. I'm the school program director at Lawrence Hall of Science. I work with Craig. And I'm going to share a little bit about what Lawrence Hall of Science is thinking we can offer to schools and to districts as you're both in a virtual learning context and also once you reopen. And so I'm just going to walk you through some of our program offerings. Some of them will have to do with outdoor education and some of them will not. So let me go, I have to go back to the slides. So hold on one sec. There we go. All right. So while people are in a virtual learning format, these are some of the things we think we can offer. And I'm actually going to let you experience 2 of these. One of the things we can do is offer virtual tutoring or classroom support with drop-in office hours for schools or for teachers. So it would be a collaboration with classroom teachers because we know that teachers have a lot on their plates right now. It's hard to manage so many small groups in virtual. And so maybe it would be a nice support for teachers to have an extra, highly skilled adult educator who can support some of the online learning that's happening with students. Another thing we were thinking of offering are virtual hands-on NGSS aligned workshops. We have ones that are single session and ones that are multi-session. We've already piloted them and they've been really successful. We've been piloted with a kindergarten class in Oakland and that worked really, really well, 22 kids at once. So, and we have professional learning support too, that goes along with the NGSS aligned virtual science instruction. So these would be pre and post workshop sessions with teachers, where teachers could learn a little bit more about NGSS. What does it mean to teach in a three-dimensional way, in a phenomenon-based way, using a phenomenon-based approach. And then teachers would get to see their own students participating in a workshop that was designed with these, using these teaching and learning approaches, and have an opportunity to debrief that in a later session. So we know teachers are still working their way through what does it mean to teach NGSS, and now they're having to all of a sudden translate it to a virtual context. We can also offer virtual interactive science shows for multiple classrooms at once. These would allow you to, they'd be interactive in that kids could be using the chat feature through their teacher. So if a teacher, is a teacher, if once kids are back in school, but they're doing a hybrid model, the teacher could be the main facilitator for it. But when the kids are still virtual, the teachers in multiple classrooms can have their students all logged on their own personal devices, and the kids can be using the chat window to be engaging. And also, they'll be able to participate through hand signals and things like that. And then we are also thinking of offering virtual interactive animal encounters with chinchillas and bearded dragons and things like that. Okay. So the other things that we can help with are in-person options. So once schools open back up, because it's safe to reopen, if they're even in a hybrid model or they're there full-time, these are a couple different things we could do. So we can teach outdoor environmental education programs to complement the school's curriculum, imagining that perhaps the school is using outdoor space like Craig was describing because you want to expand your square footage. You need to socially distance your kids. And one way to do that is to bring a large portion of them outside. And so we could provide outdoor and environmental education programs that complement what you're doing in the classroom for those students when they're outside. We can also collaborate with classroom teachers to just teach the school's curriculum. So you can use our highly skilled educators to help support whatever the classroom teachers are doing, but you might need more staff because now the kids are spread out. Half the kids are outside and half the kids are in the classroom. And maybe the teacher starts something in the classroom and then the kids are released outside while another group of kids is in the classroom starting something different. And our educators could help continue that experience. While kids are still in virtual learning, we can also support that virtual learning in a site-based model for students who can't work from home. So we know there are a lot of families where the parents are essential workers or the parents have to work outside of the home. And we would be happy to provide not just childcare, but actually, an educator who can really guide students through that virtual learning experience. And that could include us adding on outdoor environmental education enrichment programs to students who need childcare during that time. And so that could be something that a school district actually sponsors because we know there are several families who cannot afford to pay for that option. And of course, you'd need external funding to support that. We know schools, districts are not rolling in money right now. So I wanted to take a minute to share some examples of some of these programs that I said that we could do with you. And so just so you got a flavor of what they felt like. So I'm gonna start us off with a virtual workshop. So this is one of the virtual workshops we plan to offer this fall. Like I said, we've piloted these with students already. This one has been piloted several times and the kids always love it. It's called Let's Get Buzzy. And in this particular workshop, students are practicing with these skills, their observation skills. So we have them do an I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of activity. So if you're in our slides, I'd love for you to join the Padlet right now. I'll give everybody a minute to get to the Padlet.
Hey, Emily, this is Vince. Yeah. We've got one question that's in the queue to ask and then a couple in the chat. When would you like to take those?
Oh, I can take them right now. I also just put the Padlet link in the chat. So, okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to open this up to Lisa Alonso.
Yeah.
Hi, Lisa.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see Lisa. Does that help?
We should be able to see her, although I'm not sure if we've lost her or not. Well, in the meantime, there are a couple of questions in the chat. One was, how do people sign up for the hands-on workshops and animal meetings? And then, are these services fee-based?
The services are fee-based, but they will not be as expensive as if you were to come on a field trip. So conceivably, if school districts do still have some funds set aside for what you would have spent on field trips, you could use those. But we will also have financial assistance available. I'm not sure how much of it we'll have available, and we'd love to look for a funder who can support that. And so if there are any funders out there watching this presentation, I think you can see there's a lot of interest from teachers, so it would be great to have some resources to support them. And they can't sign up for them yet through any online format. We haven't posted them on our website yet. That's going to happen soon. But if they are interested, they can either send me an email, or they can email our registration office at Lawrence Hall of Science, which is part of our, if you click on the Lawrence Hall of Science website, there's there's like an at the hall section, and you can look at different programs you could do for classes. Although I think it's I'll look back at it so that I can give somebody a better answer. But for right now, you can just email me if you're interested.
Great, thanks, Emily. I think we've lost the question from Lisa, so hopefully she can either request again to ask or post it in the chat. So with that, I'll let you continue with your presentation.
Okay, great. All right, and if people have other questions, I know Craig's doing a good job of staying on top of those. So was everybody able to get onto the Padlet? Maybe just put a quick yes in the notes. All right. I'm going to, great, okay. Looks like people are accessing it. So I'm going to share a new screen now. And I said we were going to be looking at some bees. So here we go. So because you are adults, and I know you're already good noticers and wanderers and people who can think of things that remind you of something, what I really want to do with this bee video right now is I would like you, oh, it's paused, hold on. Oh, there we go. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to just take this opportunity to see, and these bees, there's not very many of them in the video right now, depending on the time of day. There are quite a few bees here. But what I'd like you to do right now is think about what you notice, what you wonder, what it reminds you of, and do this in the Padlet, just write notes. And the reason we're going to do this now, kids would spend a lot of time developing each one of these skills and practicing and going into breakout rooms. They really, really enjoy that experience. But for you, I want you to just take a minute and see the diversity of the kinds of things that people are noticing so that you can get a sense of how rich these experiences can be just with a video observation of nature. Okay. And hope it didn't get rid of the bees as I'm showing you this. So it looks like I see people writing some things down in the Padlet. Ooh, lots of I notices. The I notice column is going crazy right now. Okay. Someone wanted to know where it's located. So that's one of you put in the questions. We're going to save those other questions for later, but that question about where is this located and how many colonies are present, we can even put that in the I wonder section. So those first three columns. Sorry, I should have said that. All right. So we see a lot of people saying the bees are going in and out of their hives. There's some dead bees and a number of bees moving about. There's bee-sized doors. Some bees are upside down and not moving. So some people are inferring that they're dead, and other people are just noticing specifically what it looks like. Okay, looks like some bees are struggling. bee returning to the hive with yellow bundles on the bottom of the abdomen. So people are starting to notice differences between the bees. Some have stuff attached to them, some don't. Okay. All right. Why are they going in? What's the environment or the climate like? Why is the structure built like that? How does it benefit the work of the bees? You know, there's another really cool video where you can see the inside of the beehive, what happens once they go through that door. But I'm not sharing that one with you right now. Why are some of the bees crawling on the top of the doorway? Yeah. All right. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video and I'll stop sharing. Go. Great. You can see that we had a lot of different observations, a lot of different questions, and they remind me of, oh, someone said of my grandma's house in Mexico when I was little. Hotel with many entrances. Noted making a lot of connections.
Hey, Emily, I just want to let you know we have your audio, but we've lost your video.
Oh, okay. Huh. You lost my video of the screen share of the bees.
There you go. No, we lost you, but you're back now.
Oh, okay. I guess we're all getting used to hop on, right? So I'm going to go back to the slides. There we go. All right. And so I just wanted to give everybody a little flavor for what our virtual field trips feel like. So with the students, we would have spent some time accessing their prior knowledge about bees, and then we would have had them practice each of those different categories of I notice, I wonder, and it reminds me of. We spend some time in a whole group together, and then we break off into breakout groups so every kid gets a chance to share, especially for kindergartners. They're not sharing their observations in a chat window, right? They're sharing them out loud. And they get really excited once they come back from the breakout rooms to find out that different breakout rooms observed different things or wondered different things. And, you know, depending on the time of day, like I said, there are a lot more bees at different times of day. So the kids really do get to explore a lot of different things. Okay. I'm going to also give us a little flavor for a virtual science show. So let me share that. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so when people are saying I can still see her. Great, okay. All right, now we're gonna go to a virtual science show. And I'm just gonna show you maybe like a 1.5 minute clip from that. All right. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I wanted you to be able to see how these can be interactive. And you could imagine if kids were using the chat windows, they would also be able to ask Raina specific questions. So this is Raina, our school programs manager. This is part of a science show called Solids, Liquids, and Gases, where kids are talking about different states of matter and phase change. And they are about to get into a liquid nitrogen demo.
Now, this is super cold. You see I have protective gloves on. It's minus 320 degrees. You think I should like stick my hand in here? My living hand? What do you think is would happen? We're not gonna try that. But I do have some other types of matter that's not attached to my body to put into the liquid nitrogen so that we can see if we take some heat energy away from that matter, what happens? I'm going to put a little bit more liquid nitrogen in here, and I have a few pieces of matter. I have a balloon that's filled with air. I have some roses from my garden, and wait for it, we need our giant gummy bear again. Woo. So let me grab some more liquid nitrogen and add it. There we go. Okay. So what do you think would happen when I put this balloon into the liquid nitrogen? Okay. Balloons aren't alive. It's not a living thing, but there's air in here. Wait, did you make a prediction? what's going to happen to this balloon when I put it into minus 320 degree liquid nitrogen? Let's see what happens. Oh, wait, where's it going? Wait. Take a look. Were you expecting that? Wait. This isn't magic, this is science. What's going on?
All right. You'll just have to know that you might find out what's going on if we watched a little bit more. So I'm gonna go back to sharing our slides. So in the rest of that segment, Raina actually has the students. Raina has the students walk through a model using their hands of what's happening with the molecules as it changes phases. Oh, I'm sorry. These bummed that we didn't get to see more. I see that comment, Erica. And that's actually, I chose this clip this morning because as my daughter was watching it, that was the one that my 8-year-old went, so what I wanted to do now, we just got to get a little flavor of some of the kinds of programs we could offer virtually. And some of our workshops are hands-on. Either we can send you kits that you can distribute to your students for pickup at the school site, or you could have kids gather some very basic materials they might have around their house. And so we've designed both sorts of things. But for equity purposes, the Let's Get Buzzy workshop works really nicely because we're sharing our screen. So every kid is getting to make observations of the same thing. So I wanted to open us up right now for some questions, and Craig and I would really love to know, how can partners like Lawrence Hall of Science be most useful to you? What do you most need right now? And did you see any ideas that really resonated with you? So if you wanted to go back to the Padlet, that would be a great place to share your ideas, because we can then collect that information there. And you're also welcome to write into the chat window. And if people have questions they'd like to share out loud, of course, please let us know, and Vince can let you in to ask a question verbally. And thanks, Craig, for adding that comment about when schools get back to staggered schedules, we'd love to embed our instructors at a school site working with kids outdoors. They have to spend less time at home in remote learning. We would really love that if we can help expand your staff so you can get more kids to school. And again, we know that requires funding. And so these are all things that we would love to work in partnership with schools or districts to help you find funding to support. Okay, I'll look at the Padlet. So you can see those last, after the notice, I wonder it reminds me of, you can see those last 4 columns are questions. Oh, we have a lot of questions about the bees there, but you can keep adding questions that you have for us. Sorry, I should have been more specific before. And then, yeah, we have these other columns about how can we be useful to you? What do you need? And did you see any ideas that resonate with you? I'll put the link to the Padlet in the chat too, so you can click right on it. Okay. Is this video of Raina and other videos available to share? We don't currently have any videos ready for you to share so that you could purchase a video, but we do have the Lawrence at Home, which has a lot of, so not our school programs, but the Lawrence at Home on our website, and I'll dig up the link for that really quickly, does have a video library. It's actually on YouTube. And they're short clips, and some of them are activities kids can do at home with stuff that they have themselves.
So Emily, this is Vince. It's 10:30, so I think that'll have to be the final question.
Yeah.
But it sounds like that as long as folks are entering their comments or questions onto the Padlet, you can follow up afterward. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, terrific.
And I'm going to put the link in for the Lawrence at Home just so everybody has it. Put that there.
And then while this session has concluded, the folks are still able to remain in the chat if you want to continue posting your comments and questions there. But for now, I want to thank Craig and Emily for their presentation. and for joining us today. There's now a break between this conclusion of this session and the next session, which I believe starts at 10:45 a.m. So you have an opportunity to kind of stretch, and you can also head over to the expo hall to check out some of the exhibitors or to the networking area. I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. I know we had a few little glitches with the platform, but appreciate your patience and understanding. And again, thanks to Craig and Emily for a terrific presentation. So thank you, and thanks to everyone for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for helping us out, Vince.
You got it. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. I see that Tony was commenting. Craig, were you able to address Tony's question?
Yes,
Okay.
in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And some people are asking if we could offer virtual field trips in Spanish. I think we can actually. I think we might have somebody who's comfortable enough in Spanish who is also familiar with some of the workshops. So that should be a possibility.
Thanks for joining, everybody. We're hearing out there from some of our school districts that that during remote learning time, math and language arts are going to be the core subjects, and in some districts they've actually said that science is optional for students at the elementary level as an enrichment topic. And we want to encourage you all to find ways to keep science alive during remote learning and staggered schedules, and when we get back to normal, whatever that was. And we think that partners can help. So please reach out to your informal partners wherever your schools are located. And I think we can keep science thriving in our schools if we pay attention to it and put some effort into figuring out how to deliver it in all these new contexts.
We'll have our website updated soon for folks to be able to get programs as well. We're starting that process, but it'll take a little while.
Environmental educators unite, Melissa. Yes, we agree.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of comments in the Padlet, Craig, about people interested in funding sources too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in order to, I tried to mention in the chat, I don't know how successful I was, that we're looking for school district partners. It's hard for us to fundraise for individual classrooms and sometimes for individual schools. But if we have a district partner, we think we can go to community foundations and other sources and look for system-wide funding to bring science to every student in the district. So if you're in a situation where you think that might be possible, please reach out to Emily or myself, and we'll do the best we can to try and identify some funding sources.
Yeah. And when we do that, we can pull together packages that make sense for the needs of your district. Maybe you want, a combination of science shows to kick things off and get everybody really engaged, but then you want ongoing workshops for your students throughout the year and professional learning for the teachers, or you want us to be able to support in-person experiences as well. So those sorts of things are all the kinds of things we could look for funding for together. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, I'm working with my daughter's principal at her school as well, right? So I understand it takes a while, and also on the PTA and trying to figure out how we can get funds to support this sort of thing at her school, not even necessarily with our organization, just to make sure that the kids have access to high quality science. Jesse, if you're still on, you should definitely look at the Lawrence at Home. There are some really nice videos for younger kiddos, soon to be kindergartners. And I'll actually put a link in for a series that we did in collaboration with a maker organization that some really nice things for kids that age. So Jessica Siebert, if you're still on, I just put a link in there for you. Oh, great. Glad you got it. And it has the two, you'll see Raina's in there. We just saw in our science show, and then one of our early childhood educators is in there as well. Yeah, I see some comments about, the PTA usually pays for things, but with so many people out of work, it's unlikely that'll happen this year. And we definitely hear that. That's why looking for those external funders is so important. And if we can go in on a collaboration with a school, or even better yet, a whole district, that makes finding those funding sources easier, like Craig said. All right, we're going to leave this Padlet up for the next few hours, and then we'll make sure to share it with folks. So please feel free to continue contributing. I see Gina says we're not alone, rather finding ways to keep being connected with all of our senses. Take care. Thanks, Gina. All right, I see people are trickling off. Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I think I'm going to close out for now, but I'll leave the Padlet open. And please feel free to reach out. I'll put I think I didn't even put our slides that had our contact information on it up. But it should be in our profiles. So please feel free to contact us.